program I'm evaluating is H2O Claro. It's a program that has the purpose of promoting hydration, shifting hydration social norms, reducing sugary liquids as a byproduct, and improving health outcomes. Also, to solve the needs of the target population, there's cultural and language accessibility. It also offers free water bottles that are reusable. It also offers water refueling access, and it provides hydration education. This is discussed in the Partnership for Healthier America 2017. Program evaluation of the successful components involve powerful messaging. Now, I might not be the best Spanish speaker, but I'll try. Se imparable toma agua, which means in English, be unstoppable, drink water. So it's all about creating a positive messaging, a powerful messaging within that program. They also had a community partnership with Homeboy Industries and the Los Angeles Soccer Club called Galaxy. The significant behavior impact had 76% of participants reporting a hydration improvement. That's spectacular. However, there were some problem components, one of them being that there was a limited program duration. It ended without sustained funding. It lacked mental health framing. It lacks a follow-up for everybody that was involved. Why does that matter? Well, it didn't have sustained funding, so it just fizzled out. Another problem with lacking the mood and cognition messaging is that people missed out on learning the important education of how much mood and cognition is affected by hydration. Also, it lacked a follow-up because there was no data collection beyond the campaign. So we don't know if the hydration education needed more repetition for success, or if people were able to get the education and are much better now, or if they themselves fizzled out their hydration habits as soon as the program ended. Now, program evaluation strategy for a proposed mixed methods and longitudinal design evaluation. The quantitative and qualitative method involves a mixture of quantitative data and qualitative data. The quantitative data would be numerical data, such as results of urination. Maybe they have cellular dehydration statuses that they can find from drawing lab values. There's also how much are they drinking. We'll discuss this later. Qualitative data, on the other hand, is less about numbers and more about measuring narrative data, unless if people are performing a scale on their mood. Then that's going to be a number data. But if there's interviews of participants, we can learn which narrative idea was most helpful for them, and maybe they can offer ideas to how the program can improve on its messaging, expand and enlarge the previous program to push it forward. Now, pushing it forward could also add in a longitudinal design, which involves having monthly follow-ups, having of maybe a year or two, trying to understand, okay, let's check in with these people month after month to month to see how are they doing. Is it helping them in the long run? Let's study that. Now, the advantages of this strategy is that with mixed methodology, there's a tracking of behavioral results. We get a baseline, and then from that baseline, we understand if the program is helping or worsening the impact on the population. Also adds meaning to successful education. So the qualitative data can help pull the strengths and why was it so strong. Also, we can understand more meaningfulness of what was not successful. So we can ask people that fail more water what might help them. They can explore the weaknesses of the program. Also, the diversification of acquired data would be involving qualitative context, such as how to make the hydration more convenient, and discovers quantitative hydration data such as understanding the water intake values of the participants. And this was explored in a new 2025 study with Papadopoulou et al. That study discusses further evaluations of people being studied for hydration and dehydration statuses and the impacts of those. Longitudinally, there's a tracking of changes over time, and this was studied within Morozova where they actually discussed having a monitoring of longitudinal changes and how that might affect condition management, because the condition of being dehydrated and hydrated needs to be managed and monitored over time to understand that getting someone hydrated isn't a flip of the switch. Getting someone hydrated takes time of those healthy habits to get their cells back into being good, which a longitudinal study would help with that advantage of seeing how does this impact them over time. How studies lasting effects. Let's improve the credibility. Let's improve consistency of this education. If this education is only applied once versus applied multiple times every time they meet up, worsening effects if too much with the education, or maybe one-time education is good enough. Studying differences of providing different types of education can help understand the most efficacious style of education to improve people's healthy habits. Next up are proposed strategy limitations. So this strategy of mixed methods has problems, including that it requires more resource demands. So there's going to be needing more funding for staff. There needs to be more polling for data analyses. There needs to be more on the ground for whenever there's a program or event. There needs to be people that are there that are representing the program possibly. There's also a heavier complexity. Anytime that they're studying more things like qualitative and quantitative, it increases how complex it gets with studying what are people saying versus how the results are. That's much more complex, which that's going to lead to an analysis delay, because curating and analyzing all this more intricate data is a lot more complex and less simple to actually explain to participants the results. So with having a long study, that participants might just drop out, participatory loss over time. Some participants might want to just stop for whatever reason. Maybe they moved away. Maybe they took their child out of that program. Maybe they are too busy to participate in discussing the surveys with the program. There's so many different reasons why people might drop out. Maybe they just don't feel like it. So that's an issue where sometimes when we talk to a participant, we have to have the awareness that we might not be able to talk to them again. So we have to make sure that every time we talk to a participant, to be able to have it be very efficient in collecting some of the data that can help us regardless if we see them ever again. Another problem is the funding problem. So the longer a study, the more funding that's required. Not only just for more data being acquired, but for how long that data is being accrued. The more data that's being compiled, the harder it is to follow along what's going on there. And that will delay results even further. Now, the data collection target participants involve the East LA community members that were a part of the previous program, H2O Claro, and that the program could attempt to reach the previous participants of H2O Claro, because being able to tap into the past program might be able to speed ahead of where it left off of. It also helps connect with the past campaign partners such as Homeboy Industries and LA Galaxy Foundation to reconnect with them to find the participants. Let's do it again, but just do it longer and collect more information now that there's more studies that allow researchers to gain more ways of understanding hydration's impact on mood and cognition. And descriptions of the data collection for quantitative data. Getting further into it, there's so many things that can be involved. There's like studying urination, studying cellular dehydration, all this within these studies. But the idea is that in quantitative data and include self-reported daily intake, so it can ask participants how many waters did they drink today in cups, bottles, and it also can ask them for mental clarity rating systems like scales, where how out of 10, how out of 5 do they feel right now. So then the program can then compare how they feel and how much they're drinking and find a pattern there. It can also have more scientific extraction of quantitative data, such as taking lab draws of blood and of urinalyses. It can also understand that the mood states are degrading within this study of Su et al. 2021. They also found that there was a mood scale decline for people that are dehydrated. So understanding that mood degrades with dehydration, let's study that in that previous program. Bring the program back and let's study the mood problem. Because in the past, they weren't talking about mood. They were talking more about getting away from sugar. Now focus on moods being affected too. I think that they want their sports contestants to have a much stable mood when they're playing sports. Qualitative data involves open-ended surveys, learning narrative patterns, discussing with the participants how they're feeling with more water. Maybe they drink sugary drinks. Why are they doing that? Understanding what would help them change their mind. Try to have more of a back and forth dialogue, dialectic, open-ended. Let them lead the conversation on what they would be looking for to improve their water habits so that the program can better understand how to fit the contestants. Also, with participant interviews, case by case, people that are doing the worst, people that are doing the best, maybe in the middle ground, can better interview and explore the impacts individual basis. Maybe there's a focus group where bring in a group of people from the participants and have them share their ideas with each other about how the program is going for them. Because they might hear from other people, hey, I've been hydrating a lot, I feel much better. And other people are saying, hey, I'm not hydrating as much, I'm not feeling as good. Then that can create more camaraderie, and that can be studied. Like maybe part of education is interpersonal communication and not just us telling them like we're the teacher, not just the program instructing people, but having focus groups that allow the participants to educate each other rather than just the researchers educating them. Another factor is explore the cultural perspectives and the perceptions. How does their culture fit in? So we can understand maybe there can be a cultural shift that they'd be willing to have more hydration. Maybe they can have a leader that can help them be more into this. According to the Barrett et al. 2017, they discuss motivational themes, and they discuss the cultural perceptions of what impacted them well, and bring in a known soccer player to speak on the subject of hydration to really impact the youth. Discuss motivational themes. Barrett et al. 2017 discussed around 6 different types of motivational themes and how it impacts people drinking more water, and that's qualitative data. Now with the H2O Claro program impact, it measures the campaign impact of identifying lasting effects post-campaign. That campaign ended, but what happened after it all ended? Try to get back to lasting effects of the changes. That's another campaign impact that can be measured is the efficacy of the hydration education. There can be a recognition of the current hydration habits at baseline and understanding how to move that into a better and away from the bad hydration habits. Explores mental health narratives. So it would be exploring the narratives of people that are dehydrated versus hydrated, the people that change from dehydration or change from hydration to dehydration. Understand how does a person's narratives go along that path. Let's understand the pathologies and the mental health narrative of understanding that the mood is affected. So not just having too much sugar, but also that their mood and cognition is a part of the narrative in the program. Also, it reconnects community, it builds rapport with the campaign partners. Benefiting the community involves connecting with them with already existing partners to be able to reintegrate with them. Reintegrating and reconnecting with community and impact the community at that level. Everybody that's in those soccer and Homeboy Industry Foundation programs can be benefiting from better moods, from better hydration possibly, and let's study how hydration can impact that. Maybe these programs want to study how hydration can impact their population, and so these campaign partners such as LA Galaxy's sports team and the Homeboy Industries can see how the mood of the participants and of their population can be impacted in the community by reinforcing positive, healthy habits of hydration. Now, the conclusion of fulfilling the previous needs to reintegrate mental health messaging, discussing how the mood, mental clarity, emotional well-being is impacted by hydration status, which is discussed in these studies. The sustained assessment follow-up, learn later results of the program, where the program is trying to figure out, is this just good for now or have long-term effects? Does there need to be repetition of the education? Sometimes telling people one time is not good enough. Sometimes education is better over time if in the learning of how to be more efficacious in the education process, more effectively communicate with those involved in participating in the program, to develop meaningful community partnership, potentially gaining existing funding. So some of these partnerships, such as LA Galaxy Foundation for Soccer, they already have funding for their own program, and the past program already connected with them before. Maybe if H2O Claro redone can reconnect with these programs and gain funding from people that are within those foundations. because these foundations saw a 76% increase to the improvement of their hydration. So they might be wanting their sports contestants to be more healthy. This program has shown signs that, hey, 76% is a pretty big impact to the people in the community. So it was successful in the past. Let's reignite the success to get people to be reignited to drink more water. So now to discuss the references. In the Barrett et al. 2017, they discussed promotional campaigns on how to increase water drinking inside Latino youth in urban areas, which would be LA, or LA is very urban. Marizova et al. 2024, that is discussing a lot more technicalities of how the brain is being impacted by dehydration. That was very recent, just last year in 2024. It was like explaining why longitudinal studies are really a big thing when it comes to studying hydration. Papadopoulou, 2025, this year, discussing more hydration habits and water balance in working populations. That's another really big one. There's Partnership for a Healthier America, 2017. That one discusses the PASS program that was discussed in this program evaluation, where they discussed how the LA and the Partnership of Healthier America team up for the Drink Up initiative was encouraging water intake across LA. So that's a really good press release relating to how that program went. So the Su et al. 2021 is the study that discusses the cellular dehydration specifics of how to get that data. They discuss cellular dehydration evaluations and all the specifics that were a little bit too heavy to get into in this quick PowerPoint. Hope that more people in the community can be more empowered to keep up with drinking up and providing the education to get them there.